This is Back to Back.
Yo, what's up, back-to-backers? This is Willy Joy. Welcome to the show. This is Back to Back. This is my podcast, and this is the first episode in the future. We're in 2020. It happened. Did you have a good New Year's Eve? For the first time in many years, I didn't have a show to play, and I didn't do anything, and it was great. You know, the new year, it's always a good time to reflect, to recharge, to get back into it with new energy. And I wanted to start off this year with an episode that's featuring one of the most requested guests we've ever had on the show. I've got Mr. Carmack on Back to Back this week. He just dropped a new album at the end of 2019 called VIISTA. He just finished up a full live band tour for that album where he was playing 2 sets, a live band show, and a DJ set afterwards. I got to go check out one of those shows. It was one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time, and it really felt like you were watching a true artist. And Carmack can't be stopped. Project Paradise 2, which is a project with Carmack and Prom Night, is starting to roll out on Mad Decent later this month. So you got to keep up with him. I'm going to put a link in the description of this episode where you can go follow him, get all the music, all the tour dates, all that good shit, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it in just a second. Back to Back is supported today by Splice. Splice is the digital music platform that's being used by basically all of your favorite artists, that's evolving the way people create, connect, and collaborate. They're all about lowering the barrier to entry for all creatives out there, whether you're trying to just find the perfect sound, the perfect loop for your project, or whether you need an affordable option for the newest production tools out there. And I think that anyone who produces music knows that music software is just across the board expensive, except if you use Splice's rent-to-own program. With this program, creators pay off a software's retail price over time with just small monthly payments. There's no interest on it, and once it's paid off, you own the software forever. So you get access to it immediately, you can start using it right away, and you don't have to have a ton saved up to afford it. They've got professional-grade plugins like Serum, plugins from Arturia, Isotopes Ozone, and many more. But if you're all set on software and you're just looking for a way to make your tunes a little crispier, you got to check out Splice Sounds, which is their repository of over 1 million royalty-free samples, loops, effects, and presets. Splice Sounds is crazy, and it's made even crazier by the fact that so many incredible artists have made sample packs for Splice. Not to mention, Mr. Carmack, this week's guest, just released an incredible pack that's out on Splice Sounds right now. And if you keep listening, you're going to hear him talk about how he put that together in the conversation you're about to hear. We've got a special deal right now, only for listeners of this podcast. The link to Splice is in the description of this episode. If you go to Splice and sign up for the Splice Sounds 100 plan, which is their subscription plan for 100 credits a month to be used for Splice Sounds, use the code WillyJoy100, that's WillyJoy100 at checkout to get 1 free month of Splice Sounds. So look, Mr. Carmack, I've had people asking me for this since the first couple episodes of this show. It's been years that people have been asking for this to happen. I met up with him at his hotel out in Washington, D.C. We went out, we grabbed some dinner, we walked back to the hotel, plopped down on the beds, and just got into it. He's had an incredible career, truly a one-of-a-kind artist who's really forged his own path, the epitome of no fucks given creativity. And talking to him was just a blast, man. Like I said, the new album, VIISTA, it's out now. He's singing on it. The live band tour was amazing. I got only good things to say, man. This guy is just firing on all cylinders. I love talking to him. I love this conversation, and I hope that you love it too. Back to Back is also presented today by my friends over at Serato. And when we talk about game-changing companies, you gotta talk about Serato. From their amazing Serato DJ Pro software that you have definitely seen in use by some of your favorite artists, people like DJ Snake, Flosstradamus, and so many more. But today I want to talk to you about their newest piece of software, Serato Studio. Serato Studio is a new beat-making tool that is here to freshen up your workflow for 2020. Serato's used all of their years of expertise to really help creators simplify the path to creativity. I think if you've ever sat down to make a beat, you're familiar with getting an idea in your head and then getting frustrated when you're just trying to get that idea out and into the software. And Serato Studio is here to help you, help remove the technical roadblocks that get in the way, and just get back to fun, easy, creative vibes. The interface is super intuitive, and it comes built in with tons of loops, samples, effects. They've got their proprietary pitch and time algorithm, so you can easily browse your samples, pull something into your project, stretch it out, compress it, pitch it up and down, and once you get it popping, once you've got something you're happy with, you can export stems out of Serato Studio very quickly and pull them into your main DAW and flesh out a fully featured song in no time. I've got a special deal just for listeners of Back to Back. If you go over to serato.com/studio and sign up for a subscription to Serato Studio, use the promo code WillyJoy2, that's WillyJoy and then the number 2 at checkout to get 2 free months of Serato Studio. Think about all the music you could make in 2 months. Go check them out, serato.com/studio, and use the code WillyJoy2 at checkout to get 2 free months off of Serato Studio. So look, I'm really excited to start this new year with everybody out there listening. I've got a lot of ideas for things I want to do for the community this year, but for right now, I want to make sure we all stay in touch. I want to make sure that we keep building this community. Spreading the word is the best way to help support this show. It's the best way to help us grow. So tag us in your stories, put up a tweet, whatever you're feeling. My name is @WillyJoy on all social media. The show is @BackToBackPod. I'm always going to be replying, reposting, chatting with you guys, answering questions. I'm here for whatever you need. And if you want to get at me directly, the email address is backtobackpod@gmail.com. And I do respond to everybody, so don't worry if it takes a little while. I am going to get back to you. I love you guys, the best community out there in dance music, and I'm excited to share this new year with all you guys. So let's do this. Let's get into it. This is me and Mr. Carmack, back to back. Let's go. Here we are at Gallaudet University.
Is it the only deaf school in DC?
I don't know if it's the only. It's a good school. I know that. It's interesting. I mean, we were just talking before we got here about, it's so calm on the campus.
Very calm.
This is a weird, very weird way to start this. But when I was in college, I was in this drumming ensemble, and one of the members was like mostly deaf and would sort of go off of vibration and interpreted the music that way. And she was actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing to think about how music affects us differently and how it all is kind of vibration at the end of the day.
It's visual too. I think drummers kind of pick up visual cues as well. Although one of my favorite reggae bands, Opiki Pickers, their drummer is actually blind.
Really?
Yeah. So of course he can hear, can hear where the band is, but it's very interesting to watch how he reacts to the drums and the music in his own way.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So does he just basically has like the same setup each time? He knows where each drum is?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm sure he's played drums freaking 10 hours a day when he was a kid. You know? It's muscle memory for sure. By this point in his career, he's definitely got a visual, got a kind of composite image in his head of just exactly what's going on.
They say that, if you lose one sense, that your other senses end up getting stronger, which is really interesting to think about, because I wonder to him that, if you're blind and you can't see, I wonder if the music is somehow richer, like in your ears, you know what I mean?
Probably. Hey, man, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually what it is, Oh,
that's fascinating, man. I like thinking about how music hits people differently and how all of us kind of, like, we're all attracted to it, but I feel like it's all for kind of different reasons.
There's also science to that too. It's not like, I don't mean that music it's formulaic in that it hits certain people the same way every time.
Yeah.
It's always subjective, Art is always based on how you feel at that moment. You might like a certain band, but you don't want to hear that band at like 7 a.m. when you're having coffee. You know what I mean? There's different times and places for different vibes and moods,
and maybe this is a good way to connect it to what you're doing, right? So you just put out the new album, which is VIISTA, and there's a lot of songs on there, right? Like songs.
Pretty much most of them, all of them are a full song, in my opinion.
Right. And what I mean by that is, not only lyrics, but, these concepts, you're saying this song, I wrote it because of this event or, on this theme. And it's interesting to me to think about, you can write something with a certain intention, but it's sort of up to the audience how they interpret it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And
everyone will interpret it differently. I don't think there's two exact same interpretations in the audience,
Sure, yeah. And when you write a song, like some of the songs that are on VIISTA, is it really internal for yourself? Is there something you're hoping people get out of it?
Well, this project is my first vocal album of sorts, featuring me singing, other beautiful collaborators, singers that are on this project as well. It ultimately just kind of lends itself to being more like a story, You listen to the lyrics, get the gist in that sense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my fans or people that listen to me know me for more instrumental or more kind of beats style music, where there's not too much lyrics, there's not too much concept that's spelled out or is actually said to the listener.
Right.
So for these songs, they do kind of have a certain intent through the words and lyrics. And, I think one of the challenges I put at the start of this project was that they all had to be lyrical and a ballad of some sort or some sort of kind of, not a slower, but not less energy, The energy is still up and the energy is still high, but it's not, in your face.
Yeah. Well, and it's a cohesive body of work too, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's intentional. I mean, it's interesting because when I think about you, I think about just a prolific amount of material, right? Like, I think you're sort of known for dropping tons of songs, at least historically, these big batches of songs sort of in a non-traditional way, releasing things differently than a lot of people released. Yeah. Is it, for you, like when you're writing, like say before you started making this album, is it hard to kind of focus in on one specific sound when I think traditionally you've sort of been known for never sticking to exactly one style?
Yeah, I mean, that's why it took so long. So this project took over 5 years. I think we're honing in on 6 years, but it's out already, so it's pretty much the timetable is...
Right. It's not getting any longer.
Yeah, exactly. It's out. But that's what it started as. I was writing with a singer, Connor Pearson, this Scottish singer, and we wrote Wet Dream, which is pretty much the oldest song on the project. If you listen to that song next to, other things I put out in 2014 or 2015, one of those, when I wrote the song, it doesn't really line up, Yeah. There's a lot of, I think I did like Dime Bag or, I don't know, one of those projects that kind of was more heavy, more bass heavy, more clubby songs.
Yeah.
The challenge was to try and kind of create a body of work around that song because I always wanted that song to come out. Always. I wanted to have it have a bigger context in which it could kind of find it home, you know?
Yeah.
Just dropping songs, willy-nilly, left and right is kind of, you're setting yourself up to be backfired. That's kind of ultimately what I've learned. Because you can never keep up with the amount of demand and pressure that you set yourself up for if you become an artist that is known for putting out things left and right. You know what I mean? Like it is.
But isn't that, I mean, weren't you sort of known as an artist like that at the start?
Yeah. Again, these are things that I learned as a result of doing this, you know? Yeah. I never really thought of it. I was just doing it, you know? I wasn't like thinking about what I was doing. Scheme, exactly. I mean, there was a grand scheme when I realized that I could make money off music by putting stuff out every day. You know, like it wasn't about the money, but obviously we need money to live.
Yeah.
So by generating more and more content when in an environment where people were really not putting out music in any sort of regularity because that wasn't the climate. Now everybody's pretty much picked up on the saturation maneuver where you kind of bombard the market with new stuff always every week. Consecutive content. Exactly. But like, at what point does it become, I guess one of my favorite examples is like vlogs or YouTube users that show like the chinks in their armor are starting to show as a result of making videos every day. They look tired or they just they're just reaching for content. You know what I mean? And it's like,
it's a good observation, man.
Yeah. And it's not what the human condition is about. To just constantly report on
I agree,
everything that's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I see it in music too, man, even for like the little microcosm of DJs and electronic music and all that. Yeah, for sure. We both have friends who have sort of gotten stuck in that trap of just, I got to put something, it's been 3 weeks.
That's what it is. It's a dark hole. It's a black hole. And I have been there, and trust me, you do not want to be there. It's your style starts becoming this very like sporadic. You don't really adhere to any sort of thing that people like you for. They just know you as someone that's going to put stuff out, and that kind of mentality as a fan is not. It doesn't stick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as soon as that artist stops putting out shit, then it's like, oh, okay, well, let me go find something. You know what I mean?
100%. And I always talk about, I try to put myself in the position I was in when I was a kid. And I think about, the artists that really meant something to me when I was a kid. Like, how did they operate, you know? And it's almost always on the scarcity principle,
Yeah, definitely. People don't want to admit that because that's not how you make money. That's not how you make that million the first year, is by making yourself scarce.
Right.
You have to put yourself out there. You have to make content. You have to, because the human brain can't remember the freaking 5,000 artists you swiped left on the last 48 hours. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's just not possible.
Well, now in the era of like a Spotify playlist, you're not even consciously picking the music you're listening to anymore, No,
you're not.
And it's a bizarre...
It's a weird world we live in right now.
It is, man. Yeah. I guess, and maybe that's a good way to talk about sort of how you started off and came up, because I think times are very different in that era. And I think the whole ecosystem just operated differently.
Yes.
I mean, even before sort of your breakout, your come up, whatever you want to call it, you've been musical kind of your whole life, right?
Yes.
Like from a young age.
Both my parents are musicians.
What kind of musicians?
My dad is a singer and piano player. He used to play restaurants and had a couple bands. And my mom, she's a multi-instrumentalist. She played flute and she played Japanese drums for 20 years.
Taiko?
Taiko, yeah. Taiko drums. She was a taiko drummer for a long time. And then now she sings in a choir. She always keeps herself busy through the arts, whether it's a dance class. She was primarily a dancer, but she did a lot of musical arts because she was married to my dad she's always been musical in her own right.
Yeah. And were they both, actively performing, involved in the community when you were a kid?
Not really. My parents had me late in their life. I think my dad was 40 and my mom was 37 or something. So they weren't kind of like, my dad was. My dad was definitely gigging a lot, and he was teaching. There was like a point where he just made his money by teaching people how to play music and doing private lessons at the house. And he had like a big Hawaiian music choir and group in San Francisco where I grew up. My mom has had a full-time job for like 45 years, so she kind of like filters in and out of
it was always
the professional aspects of music. Right. It's always just been enrichment for her, especially when I was growing up.
And in some ways, I mean, it's cool actually that maybe you got to see both sides of that, because I think when music does become your profession, that can be a tricky moment.
It's a death sentence.
Right? Yeah, in a way, right? I don't know. I don't think it's a death sentence, but I think...
I've been joking.
No, but I do think it's something we all have to navigate when you do make that leap, right? Because when... I talk about this all the time, like when you're what you do for fun becomes your job,
right?
It does change the way you think about it, No, and sometimes that pure enjoyment is harder to come by.
Yeah. The other side of that is that you can be a musician or an artist and have a career somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, especially people that I not really, look up to, or just people that I know are freaking talented, like great musicians, great artists, that have always just kind of been like, I'm working, I'm doing a job. And I always try to I don't pressure them, but I'm like, having an art form doesn't just go away because you have to focus on other things. I think making time for yourself to learn and to actually play piano or whatever it is that you wanted to do in the art form, just make time for it, and it influences your life positively.
Absolutely.
It's like the gym,
Yeah.
Going to the gym. You just have to know that you're making time. So
yeah, it's how you stay healthy, right? Like if not physically healthy, then mentally healthy.
Spiritually, it's all three of those.
I agree, man. I even think I would even flip it. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that I think professional musicians need a hobby or a passion that's outside of music.
True.
And that's something, because I think, we see so many people who get just so wrapped up in their career in this life that it's just all consuming. Do you have any hobbies, any side passions?
I kind of filter in and out of hobbies. I've had this old car for 2 years, and I've been kind of learning how to tinker with it.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's an old 70s Chevy Nova, and that's kind of been an on and off hobby. I've fixed a couple things on there, and I've always wanted, I've always wanted a Chevy Nova. Got one. Other hobbies, I love video games. I mean, play PS4. I love skateboarding. I'm not a big skater, but I love skateboarding around my neighborhood.
Well, and I think
running.
Running's good too. Yeah, I'm a gym guy. And I think the commonality between a lot of what you just said is a lot of that is it's a pursuit that you can kind of go as deep as you want into it, Like there's always like fixing a car or getting good at a video game, any of that. The more time you put into it, the more there is to learn. Like you can always kind of level up, so to speak.
Definitely. And it's all up to you. It's not
which is sort of the same as music.
Kind of, but because you do throw in the professional element, and you do throw in the, oh shit, I gotta pay rent. Can I swear on this?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All that stuff comes into play, and it's a whole different ball game. You start really learning about the people around you,
Well, that's true too, right? Yeah. Did you notice, when things really started to take off around you, that some people started acting differently around you?
No, it wasn't about the action. It wasn't about that so much, in that it was more like I'm I just needed to make decisions. And like, I couldn't just be like, oh, things are happening. Okay, I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah, you can't just let it happen to you.
When things start popping in the first 6 months, that's when the real work starts coming. Because you actually start to meet people in your professional field that have been in it for years and years, and they're going to look at you like you're the next hot shit.
Right.
And they put you in a studio and, you know, you're kind of floating. You know, you gotta come up for air and fend for yourself. And that's when things get a little muddy in the brain.
Yeah.
Especially people that are unseasoned towards like relationships and knowing your place, knowing your role.
Yeah, that's huge.
All these things start coming into play because it really, in essence, is not about the music anymore. Like, I can write music till I'm blue in the face, but if I'm not making a lasting relationship with someone that, you know, can take me somewhere, or not even take me somewhere, but just, you know, like establishing working relationships professionally.
Yeah.
Isn't all about the music, you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
If you understand.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I mean, it's almost, in a weird way, it's like it's very much not about the music.
Yeah,
you know?
That's my point. That's definitely what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, and so like leading up to when you started having to think about these kind of things, I mean, you know, you've got musicians for parents. I assume you're playing instruments growing up.
Yes.
That kind of thing in bands.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do some kind of brass instrument?
Trumpet.
Yeah.
I started it because my sister actually played trumpet. And I just took her old trumpet and walked into music class.
Yeah.
And then they gave me a French horn because there was no French horn players, but they thought that I would be good for French horns.
Okay.
So I actually went to conservatory for a year in like university.
Right.
But
For
didn't do
French
too
horn.
well. Or French horn, yes.
Yeah.
French horn performance, which is an interesting major to have in college. You know, like you really you're doing 4 years in college to perform as a French horn player.
Right.
I mean, it's good. You're getting the education, but it's like...
It's very narrow.
Yeah, super narrow. Like, you're in a freaking, like, some other class with different people, like psych majors and other people, and they're like, what? You want to come to my recital?
What kind of a kid were you, just in general? Like, because, you know, it seems like you've always been musical. I'm sort of getting a sense of, you know, maybe the environment your parents put you in. But, you know, for you, like, were you a popular kid? Were you like a weird kid, a nerdy kid?
Damn. I was a lot of everything, honestly. Everything you said that. Did you say witty kid?
I said weird or nerdy.
Weird or nerdy.
Witty too, though.
No, I don't know how I got witty. Maybe I was projecting. Maybe I'm projecting. Terrible. I was a little of all of them. I was weird, nerdy. I was very observant when it comes to what the hell, where I'm at. You know, like I'm not someone who steps on people's toes without knowing it. You know what I mean? Like I've always been kind of hyper aware about where I'm at and how I maneuver.
Yeah.
I think school for me was less about my studies per se. Like I didn't do very well in school at all.
Right.
But it was more about like, this is going to sound kind of weird, but like manipulating relationships, not like for my betterment, but just kind of seeing how human psyche, like just meeting everyone and trying to make things work with people that might not have liked me in the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like waiting 6 months to see if this kid will like me in the spring. Or
Right.
it sounds kind of weird.
No, I think to me, when you say that, what I'm hearing is that maybe at a younger age than a lot of people, you were kind of seeing how human relationships work, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think as we all get older, eventually you sort of figure out that there's like a subtext under most interactions.
And most people just say, fuck it. And like, if I don't like you, I'm not fucking dealing with your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's easy. It's easy. That's easy for a lot of people, you know? Like, I know a lot of people that keep their circle small. They don't deal with like 99% of the people in the world because they can just be like, yo, fuck this. And I'm more power to them, you know?
Yeah.
I kind of relish in the idea of kind of everyone has a story. Everyone has kind of like a little something to offer me.
Yeah. So you're looking for ways to relate to people, even if it seems difficult at first.
Well, the difficulty is more intriguing in a way. And I'm not looking for difficult people. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not, that's not the point I'm trying to make. But it's like, when I was younger, you were asking me about being younger.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to meet girls. I wanted to fucking make sense of like how, you know, how friendships work and how people, you know, how I can charm my way out of fucking turning in a massive paper that I didn't even start, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all of these things play into kind of like human relationships and things that allow me to kind of flourish in a career that I'm proud of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I think that kind of sort of independent thinking, if I can call it that, you know, if there's like a test that, or a paper or whatever that you didn't do, I think
that's the thing. There is no test for that kind of stuff either.
Right.
It's kind of terrible to think that critical thinking and relationship building isn't worked into the curriculum a little more. You know what I mean? You know,
it's important.
We were growing up as standardized testing kids, or kids that were moving towards more standardized testing, you know, back in the 90s and 2000s, like all that George Bush era, kind of like, if your kid's not getting A's, your teacher's getting fired. Right. You know what I mean?
Like, it's by quotas almost.
Yeah, and it's disgusting. It's a horrible way to raise a kid. And for a kid not to see past that, they're missing a lot of important things in society. Like, it's hard for a lot of people to talk to each other.
Oh, yeah.
In my generation, and especially, there's a lot of depression. There's a lot of anxiety.
I think it's even harder for now, like for the youngest generation. I think it's hardest for them.
Oh, yeah. Because now they got a phone. They just even turn off even more.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have to fucking deal with these. I don't have to deal with my parents. I just fucking...
Yeah. And then this is a whole nother discussion, but you know, the social media part of it too.
Oh, yeah. Well, social media is how I came up.
Right.
It's always been a thing of mine. I always love Facebook and MySpace and all the younger, you know, stuff.
Is that how you first started connecting with people who would sort of end up being your musical peers and friends, like in a professional sense? Yeah,
in a sense. I want to say it was MySpace, but it really wasn't. MySpace was more like kids at school, you know, or kids from the next school. Like, it wasn't meeting fans from Baltimore or something. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was more like I think even Facebook was more like my immediate. It was more just like physical. Like, if I knew you as a person, I'd follow you.
Right, exactly.
And then, of course, Instagram and all that shit came out, where it's like you can actually start and develop a kind of an alias-like career where you don't have to, you can reach out on basis of your social media attraction, not who you are as a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They look at you, 100,000 followers, you must be worth talking to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And even like an Instagram feed, people keep it so curated. And like, you know, if I think about MySpace or Facebook, it was never that curated, you know?
Well, we didn't have the algorithms in place.
No, we didn't.
You would only see it's damn near an unfiltered feed. It was unfiltered.
I miss it, man. It's like, especially MySpace to me, that's like Wild West days.
Yeah,
like,
very much so.
That shit was so fun. You could even like code your own page, you know, put like weird backgrounds and animations that would like slow down the whole browser.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was like fucking like little like fairies, like pixie dust just like falling on top of your MySpace.
I love that, man.
Crashing everyone's computers and shit.
That was the best.
It was, I mean, dude, individuality is one of the biggest aspects of growing up, bro. Like, expressing and exploring your own individuality is something that, you know, standardizing testing and things like that government structures put on kids is like the worst thing that you can do.
Well, it's good.
Removing art programs, removing music programs, things like that.
I know.
They do that because they think they're simplifying their structures so that the kids will focus more. But it's like, you lose the options for them. Like, they don't think that there's any options growing up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because you only know what you're shown when you're a kid.
Exactly.
Which is, I think it's good that you, at least from what I can tell, were able to sort of realize that maybe there was more out there from a younger age than some people.
Yeah.
Like, what did you think you were going to do with your life when you were, like late high school, going to go to college? Like, did you think music was going to be a career at that point? And this is in San
I never
Francisco,
really
we
knew
should say.
how it was going to happen. I mean, music has always been kind of an impulse for me. Like,
Yeah.
I never lost the impulse to make beats. It was very impulsive. Like, I would wake up and I'd be like, let's make a beat. Let's fucking
Were you
make some
making beats in high school?
Yeah. And my grandfather, he bought me one of the first Dell started making XPS gaming laptops.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they were like trying to start the laptop gaming market, and I think one of the first XPS laptops my grandfather got me, and it was enough where I could run like programs pretty well, it was built for gaming. So
Higher end at the time.
yeah, definitely, it was slated for, high frame rate, whatever. So I'd been making music on there. I had buddies in high school that were already making beats. So they showed me certain programs, and
What kind of stuff were you making, like at the very
beats.
start?
Throw a kick in, throw a snare.
Well, I mean, what were you listening to that even made you want to make beats?
Oh man, frick! In 2002. Well, before that, I mean, I wasn't making beats, but I would listen to a lot of stuff that my sister was listening to. 'Cause I have an older sister, 6 years older, and she was in high school when
So she could put you on.
Yeah, she was playing like SWV and like, early Destiny's Child and like Fugees, things with a beat on it, and motherfuckers could sing to it, as catchy lyrics, catchy vibe, chill. She would sing. My sister's a singer.
Oh, okay.
So she would sing to the radio. She would record herself. And then with the beat stuff, it kind of felt natural to go more into like hip hop minded stuff. Like I think 2003 to 2007.
I mean, that's
That's like backpacker vibes.
There's that. It's also like Neptune's Timbaland vibes.
They were just busting out their stuff. Neptune's. I was more in the backpacker, like Madlib, like Doom, and like
J Dilla.
J Dilla. Well, J Dilla. I learned more later. I'm not gonna lie. I was more in the Madlib camp. There was a distinction with J Dilla,
right,
and with what Madlib.
Like people like picked one or the other sometimes.
I don't know if they did because I was young, where it wasn't about taking sides.
Yeah.
But I just in my ears sonically, I think there was a distinction, and then later on, I started getting into like Donuts and E=MC². I think Madlib was just way more lo-fi with it. Like, I mean, it's hard to say. They're both legends.
Yeah.
And I listened to both of them, clearly.
And this is all happening in San Francisco, too, which we should say probably.
San Francisco, born and raised. I mean, that's another thing is like there's a lot. We were the kids of the people that moved into San Francisco in the 70s and the 60s and 80s, the height of civil rights and gay rights. And, San Francisco was a freaking crazy house back in those days. And so for us to kind of be born by this generation of, LSD was just synthesized, popularized, like there was a rise in alternate lifestyles, alternate education systems, alternate everything. Everything had to be alternate. There's Eastern ways of thinking and stuff. So I was always kind of thrown into a lot of weird situations where I would have to sit there. I'd have dinner with my parents' Japanese friends, and we'd all sit on the ground and drink tea and talk about some shit. You know what I mean? Right. Or like I'd go to my dad's, Congolese friend, and we'd all, we'd smell like incense in the room, and you know what I mean? All these things and cultures colliding.
And that just became regular.
Yeah, it was. Both my parents were very involved in artistic movements in San Francisco, and it was it was not out of necessity. It wasn't like, oh, I need to be part of this so I can move ahead in my career. Like a lot of people in this day and age think that you need to bond with certain people just because you think that it's going to further your career. You know what I mean? They're there because if they didn't have that art or they didn't have that identity through their art, like they'd feel worthless, you know? And it's like, it's out of this emotional need for inspiring each other, you know?
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a lost art.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's definitely, no, you're right. I mean, it's different back in those days. I do think it's weird to think about like, you know, a kid who's just born now, like what kind of culture, like a kid born in San Francisco now would grow up with such a different kind of culture. You know?
Yeah. A lot of my friends that wanted to raise kids in SF or wanted to stay in can't afford to anymore. So
right.
It's kind of just been like a give up kind of vibe, you know, like kind of a defeatist vibe. Like, fuck it, I'm not going to be here anymore. They don't need me.
Yeah, lost the battle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and for you, we mentioned you ended up leaving. Eventually, you went to conservatory. Was that like right out of high school?
Yeah. I got accepted on scholarship to Long Beach State. There was a couple colleges, but I chose Long Beach State because I wanted to be in Long Beach, I guess. I don't know. Like, it sounded like fucking it sounded beach, you know. I would be by the beach.
People mention it in songs.
Yeah, like, this is fucking Snoop Dogg, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't last very long. Like I went there, I started like promoting for clubs, and I was still making beats. Like I would skip school, just make beats, and started like working in a restaurant and. You know, but it was, by that time I had no focus for like remedial trigonometry. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even in my mind to kind of excel in school at that point, you know?
Right.
Nowadays, I think about kind of going back to college because I'm 30 now, and it's like trying to figure out ways where I can kind of make a more tailored college experience where it's classes for enrichment, you know?
Absolutely,
getting a bachelor's degree.
Oh, I fully support that, man. Yeah, you could go, you know, anyone could. That's the crazy part. You know, you go to like a community college, many of which are very good, audit a couple classes. You can be very specific about what you want to get out of it.
Right.
Yeah, I support that, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I have some friends that are like, why would you ever want to go back to college? They're the guys with degrees too. They're like, I don't use my degree at all.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to get a degree and to actually like, you know, I don't know. I would like at one point in my life to have a post high school degree.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you know, I think it's important that we all keep trying to learn in one way or another,
definitely,
right?
Definitely.
And I mean, I know those kind of people too who are like, oh, why would you ever go back to school? But then, you know, if I think about some of those people, it's like, well, you're not learning anything right now, you know?
Right.
And at least for me, and this is, I think, maybe like a music thing too, is just I always want to be around people who are trying to do better themselves in some way. You know?
I agree.
In whatever it is, whether it's going back to school, whether it's getting in shape, whether it's just, you know, getting healthier mentally. So I wanted to ask you, when I knew I was coming to talk to you, I did a little research, and one thing that pops up a lot reading about you and things you've said, I think it's even in your bio on your website, is that an important moment for you was when you stopped using music as an escape and sort of...
I'm going to have to look that up. I don't remember saying that.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was basically something like, you know, for a long time you had been using music as an escape and you were doing it hours and hours and hours, like it was taking up a ton of your time, but you weren't looking at it as, you know, something productive. It was almost like what you were doing to, you know, distract yourself from something else.
I think I know what I was trying to say. When you're a kid, you learn about avoidance, you know, like you always try. Like I noticed that with my nephew a lot, where he'll just run around. I'll just have to wait and just be like, you ready to do your homework now? You ready to sit down and do your, you know what I mean? And he'll just do anything just to get himself out of that homework mind. Like he'll bend his back, you know, he'll do this most ridiculous stuff. Just like it doesn't make any sense, but he's that's a part of human nature, is to want to kind of go to some sort of place where your mind is not pressured into a certain mode,
Right.
And I think that was my place, was the ability to kind of like zone out for hours and hours and just click and just make little hairline adjustments to sounds and music. And I wasn't making money. I was selling my clothes for weed. Like I wasn't establishing an adult. To be an adult, you need kind of a foundation of your basic necessities. Where am I getting my food? Where am I taking a shower? Things like that, where you just kind of learn how to take care of yourself. Like you're not at your parents anymore. They're not feeding you anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think there was a moment, especially when I was like failing college, like miserably, like 0.2 GPA, like miserably failing. And when I was just falling deeper into this kind of avoidance pattern where I was just, I don't need that. I don't need to work. I just make me, I don't need, you know what I mean? It wasn't about me trying to step up my life. It was about how can I just kind of fluff off shit so that I can just make music and be in my happy place.
Well, and there's comfort in that too, right? Like if you're unhappy with one part of your life, but another part of it brings you joy, then I think that's a natural human thing too, right? Is to sort of just say, I don't have to deal with that because I've got this thing,
right?
And I love this thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I mean, so were those kind of realizations, and that maybe you could actually sort of be consciously, making music, looking at it as a career, incorporating it instead of kind of using it. Was that all running through your head, like leaving college? And I know at a certain point you moved to Hawaii as well.
So that was kind of my realization I just needed some guidance. I think I wasn't getting guidance from my friend group. They were in the same bag as me, like just all trying to figure it out. 20, 21-year-olds, 20-year-olds,
right. Well, and there's less of a roadmap too at that time, right?
I mean, my friends, they wanted to go out every weekend. I wanted to go out every weekend. They were still in school and excelling. I was fucking out. You know what I mean? I was out. I was gone. I couldn't see them on the courtyard because my ass was out of school. You know what I mean? So I needed to figure out a game plan for myself to get my ass back in shape, and not think that, I can still hang out with these people every week just because they want to, go out and be friends with me. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I got to make decisions on my own. So
yeah, like because we're friends, it's not, we don't have the same life, Well,
especially when you're failing out of school. Yeah. Yes. Like I can't, they're still in school. So I moved to Hawaii to be closer to my sister, who I look up to in every way. And she helped me a lot. It wasn't about, kind of bumming her couch or like looking for, like I made a pact with her and said that, I would work full time. I wouldn't stop until I worked full time. We ended up getting a house together and kind of, having a 2-bedroom house. And we ended up living there for like 3 years. So, it was around that time when I was kind of getting it through my head that I needed to just depend on my own youth and my own free will.
Yeah.
To get what I needed to survive, Like these are things, again, no one teaches this shit in school. You know what I mean? Like they used to have things like home ed or like, where they would teach you how to cook or they would teach you kind of really basic like taxes and things like that. But even those are luxuries to find in a school. Like, no one tells you that, the foundations of being an adult are very important.
Yeah, well,
to learn on your own,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, if I think about my own schooling experience, I was just sort of following the path I thought I was supposed to follow, right? And it wasn't until much later that I sort of realized that, you really, at a certain point, you have to self-actualize. You have to actually, make your own decisions at a certain point. Like I got almost all the way through college before it sounds so weird to say, but like before I even realized that, I should be steering the ship.
Yeah. No, I had that same actualization or realization in Hawaii, like it's not hard to get a job. It's not hard to actually make a living as an able-bodied individual.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's not hard. You know what I mean? It's not hard. It's really not. Most of it's just mental barriers. Maybe you have extreme like social anxiety, things like that. I can get, but like, and it's also about skill building too. Like getting jobs isn't just to make nickel and dime the rest of your life.
Right.
You're building a skill that you will hope to kind of reach a certain level where you don't have to be in the freaking dish pit every day. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
Like it's not about just making bare minimum and then going home. For some people it is, but I think if you really want to kind of improve your life, look at the manager, try and emulate what they're trying to do, or just in some way try and relate to them, or you know what I mean, or kind of give yourself a way out.
or really anyone who's just in a position where you think, oh, that could be cool if I was in that position. Just see how they carry themselves, see what they did to get there. Yeah.
Works in music.
Yeah, that's absolutely
I think a lot of people, I try and extend my hand to as many people that ask me questions about producing 24/7. Like if people ask me questions on DM, or if people ask me questions after the show. And one of the biggest questions I get is the freaking vaguest question of all, and is how do I get better as a producer?
Yes,
the most vague question.
Such a hard question.
It is. It's simple. It's simple when you think about it, which is self-actualization.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know something, the only way to do it is to do it. You know what I mean?
And there's so many resources available now that I think there's less of an excuse now. It's like, if you don't know how to do something, you're just afraid of not doing it right. Right. Yeah.
That's the second part of it, is realizing that you will not do it right and being okay with that. Like I'm not sitting here as an established singer about to sing for the 10,000th time.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I am a new singer. Like I'm not going to lie to you. This is not my best form, but actualization for me I've found in music doesn't depend on me being right. Depends on me just feeling the timing. Maybe number two is in importance. Like the timing of this tour it hasn't felt better,
Right.
I've felt the best I've felt in a long time as a touring artist, touring musician, is able to kind of step out of my own comfort zone on stage and still have a platform that is open to it,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's a lot of differences here. I mean, you've got the full band set up.
Yeah.
You're singing. It's a whole different... is this like the Galaxy Brain version of what you wanted a Carmack show to be? Like, did you always have that idea in the back of your head?
No, I wouldn't say it's been in my head this whole time. I remember one moment in high school, when I told my private teacher, he was the first horn for San Francisco Opera. And I told him he asked me if I was going to play French horn for the rest of my life. And I said, maybe, but I really want to be a DJ.
Oh, wow.
I want to be a DJ and be in fashion. And he looked at me with the most deer in headlights look of all time. It was just like, like he had nothing to say in support of that, because that's not, in his generation, that's not a thing. You
doesn't
know what
even
I mean?
have
It doesn't
any
mean
meaning,
anything. It had no meaning to me too.
Right.
Like I didn't know what it took to be a DJ. I didn't know you had to sacrifice a whole lot of things to be a DJ.
Yeah.
Like you really have to gruel through a lot of, I was fortunate. I think growing up in a SoundCloud era where music kind of preceded the popularity.
Yep.
Like you had the music, you can build the popularity easy.
Yep.
If you had the music, the popularity is right on the corner.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think a lot of the earlier DJs that are now celebrated all over the world had a long build-up time. 5+ years. Nobody coming to their shows. Entering DJ battles. doing local shit,
Yeah.
playing corporate events, things like that. I mean, it was a brave new world in 2012, 2011 even. Spotify didn't exist.
Yeah.
There wasn't these massive aggregated systems for mass consumption of music. Like literally, it's a Walmart of music. Like I can't be in there. I can't not go there if that's the only thing that's available.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've learned to embrace it. I enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, you always got to adapt, I think, for anyone who wants a long-term career. It's
another thing is choosing your battles. Like you can't go up against every single system and say, fuck them. You can't. There's just too much at play. You're hurting yourself doing that,
Well, and for you, getting to the point where you really start popping off on SoundCloud and you're kind of building this peer group and you're gaining a lot of attention for all the stuff you're putting out there. Do you think it was that time in Hawaii, like in isolation a little bit, that really allowed you to sort of hone in on your sound, like level up your production abilities? Was there kind of like really any time period where you felt like you just really sort of locked in with the sound you wanted to be making?
Yeah. I mean, we touched on it earlier. There was a lot of that, and there was a lot about, people couldn't wait to log in and just hear whatever it was.
Right.
My artistic integrity, or not integrity, but I think to be honest, I think my music got sloppy because of that whole that whole kind of come up. Yeah. It was fun. It was really good for my career. I was really doing a lot of that. Like there was a point where I was making enough money in Bandcamp that I quit all my jobs. I sat there, I got 1 gig a month. Shout out John. And I literally kind of lived off that. Yeah. I sat there and made music. And that was it. Like I think this project, this VIISTA project that I just put out, is kind of a testament to a new me that doesn't really depend on the rate in which I put out music, just as a device. You know what I mean? I want to be able to kind of create most cohesive projects that I can, regardless of listener, viewership, anything.
Yeah, you think that's a model to follow for your future? Like that's more of where you see it heading?
That's where I'm at now. Like I experimented again with doing a track a day. We did a project called Chromosomes. Didn't get much love. I mean, a lot of people were following it. A lot of my core fans were following it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really easy to grasp. Having a song out a day in this climate is kind of more of an annoyance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to hear another Carmack song.
Right.
That guy put out another song. You know what I mean? It's like back in the day, there was a distinct curiosity with listeners because they weren't getting fed.
Right.
They were not getting fed. They'd wait. Missy Elliott would put out a record, or not even Missy. Like, who was putting out records? 2012. 2013. I don't even know.
Yes. My memory's so bad for dates.
They put out an artist would put out something. I think Magna Carta came out. Or Watch the Throne.
Sure.
And some shit like that. And then they'd wait another freaking year and a half for labels to clear another batch of songs. And then out come these fucking nobodies putting out music every day. What?
Yeah.
That's just...
Yeah, it was kind of like
it's wild.
Yeah, and it's for the people. It's like for the people, by the people, right?
And now there's too many people for the people.
You're right.
And then there's too much noise. And now there's hella noise. And then now nobody wants to be with any people. And then...
It's all a pendulum, man. It's so weird.
It is. That's kind of... I think John said something about that earlier.
Yeah.
He was saying it's a cycle.
It is a cycle. And if we keep thinking about, right when you started popping, like I had seen, obviously I knew your music from SoundCloud and Bandcamp and all that, but I think I remember like when you put out that record with Jeffries, like the Mad Decent imprint.
That popped off.
Yeah.
That helped my career a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because that was like 2012, 2013, something like that?
That was my first kind of out of like a label release. I was still living in Hawaii at that time.
Oh, were you?
Oh, yeah. I had a friend that was working for Mad Decent. His name's Andy Jemba. and he was helping kind of write some of their music. Who's in their camp.
Yeah.
And, Diplo and everybody in Mad Decent had that sub-label, Jeffries, in a time where there were no sub-labels.
Right.
The sub-labels didn't exist.
That's the other thing.
All these new things popped up as a result of what we were kind of spearheading and what Mad Decent spearheaded, and Selection and Team Supreme and a lot of these things that nobody really know now per se, because there's so much noise. There is so much shit going on.
Well, even Selection and Team Supreme are almost more pure versions of that, because those are artist collectives almost,
16
more than a
to 20
label.
people in each. And it was a collective, but it was also a PR company in essence. Because when one person on a certain team would do something, the whole team,
you all push it.
Come on in. They would, get the fucking art, get it in, play it in their sets.
Know what that predicted is the SoundCloud repost groups that would pop up years later that I think are kind of one of the reasons SoundCloud went down in flames, because that shit got so out of control. Mm-hmm. Which is
there were points. I think there were certain points where artists would pay, they would offer to pay me to repost their shit.
Oh, for sure.
They would offer to pay me, and they'd be they'd pay me to do 6-month deals. I don't even know what it would be, but anytime they post a song, I would have to repost.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I remember reading a lot of comments like that, or a lot of messages, It's
just interesting that, a lot of how you came up, I think I guess it's the cycle thing again, just sort of that's how you came up and what helped you get there. But then it's also what sort of brought that system down in the end. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think it was ever going to be a be all end all. That was never going to last.
Yeah.
Just as most things do in music.
Yeah.
Your favorite club shuts down. There's iterations of that kind of oh shit, nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
And I am 100% in alignment with it. I don't regret it. It's a perfect moment in my life. One thing that I do like saying to people is that it actually, the connection to major labels and the connection to mainstream music was, If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, Drake, or Untitled, Unmastered, Kendrick. I think that Untitled Beyonce album that she just dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Jay-Z did something too. And then there were a lot of lesser artists, or not lesser, goddamn.
I know what you mean.
There were a lot of lesser known artists that were kind of adopting
that model,
the SoundCloud model. We had, managers in our house picking our brain, trying to figure out what the model was that we were using to get 200,000 plays a day, or 150,000 plays a day, or 500,000 plays a day. You know what I mean? Things that right now are considered major successes.
Yeah.
But we're getting traction on SoundCloud for no money, for no business.
Well, and that's kind of why it worked, right? Because again, it's that intention, and it's a pure thing, right?
Right.
I think if you guys had set out with the intention that we're going to repost each other's shit so we make a bunch of money, there's something in that way of thinking that I think could have just spoiled it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it is like a white dog, It's gonna get dirty at some point. It's gonna dirt's gonna get trapped in that hair.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You can't keep it nice. You can't keep that fur nice. I mean, you can keep them inside, but then it won't grow.
Yeah. Well, how did it feel for you, when you did start getting kind of that wider attention, say, Diplo's labels reaching out to you? I think shortly after that, you were working with people like Pharrell, right?
Yeah.
Did that seem like it happened really fast?
No. Yes and no. I had nothing else to do, so it was kind of I'll fucking sleep on a couch for a week in LA. Yeah, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? It was it was now or never. I quit my jobs. I told my sister I'm moving. For me, it was a no-brainer. It's part of learning stuff as an adult, is you really do realize that your personal issues about things shouldn't be a gauge on whether you should do it. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't sit here and tell you that I didn't struggle for a while, where I was like, I mean, I'm still fucking struggling, you know? Music is a lifelong struggle, you know? It's not meant to be all pretty and then all of a sudden you have $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's what they portray it to be.
Well, sure.
That's how they get you.
I mean, are we talking about struggling with things like self-doubt and that sort of thing?
Self-doubt, you know, not knowing whether you're going to be able to kind of like, you know, latch on to a fan base, or, you know, you put something out and it gets like 200 plays or 2,000 plays even. Well,
and that's even another thing. I was thinking about this in regards to the VIISTA album too, is I think once you do have a fan base, then it can be scary to step out of what you're known for, right?
Yeah.
Like once there's expectations placed on you as an artist, at least personally, there's been times where I felt like it's, you know, like fenced in a little bit, and that can be frustrating too.
Very fenced in. What I'm finding with this project is my fan base is shifting for the better. I mean, I try to include everyone. Like, I'm not here to tell you that I'm never making bass music again. You know, right. I love bass music. I love anything regarding a nice beat and bass. But for this project in particular, you know, it is a part of my life that I don't want to ignore anymore. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that VIISTA has been like this sudden realization that I can make this shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's always been a part of my life. Soul music, ballads, R&B. My dad's a singer, etc. You know, it's always been there, but I haven't addressed it because of, you know, the game. Pretty much. I don't blame it on the game, but the game can be pretty unforgiving in a sense. You have to create a lane for yourself. And the best way to kind of build that lane is to not waver and not stay in your freaking lane. Move up from the 500 cap rooms to the 3,000 cap rooms, and you'll be fine, buddy. You're gonna be fine. You know what I mean? Like I was really I still do. I have a hard time swallowing that pill. Every day, I have a hard time swallowing that pill.
And that goes back to the self-actualization thing, I think, too, right? Is that even when things are going well, you still sort of have to consciously reset every once in a while and make sure that the decisions you're making are the ones that are going to make you happy and not the ones that are just going to make you successful, right? Which is a hard thing to do, I think, especially when things are going well. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're totally right. I think what's helped me, you know, of course, it's manifested in the VIISTA being a different project or people knowing me for making different things, but being true to the emotion in which you're writing. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say every time I'm sad, I'm going to write a sad song.
Right.
But I'd like to think that if I am sad, the elements in my mood and my emotion will somehow kind of blend into the music that I'm writing to say, oh, yeah, September 15th, 2015, I wrote that shit. I was sad.
Right.
You know, I can hear it. I can relate to the condition I was in.
It's like an emotional time capsule, you know?
Yeah, that's what art is. Like, it's not a means to an end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never was a means to an end. I liked making bass music that I knew people would like because it was such an exercise in kind of creating something simple enough that would be as effective on a wider scale.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I think about this a lot because
it's an exercise.
Yeah, it's an exercise, and you're trying to provoke almost like a physical reaction out of people, right? Which is different than the way you think about writing other types of music. Mm-hmm. You know, I make mostly bass music too, and it's really a different way of thinking about it.
Yeah,
and it's a way I enjoy. It's like you said, it's like a puzzle, and I like the simplicity. It's almost like, this is such a pretentious metaphor, but, you know, it's almost like chiseling like a block of stone, you know, and you just take away and take away and take away until finally, you know, if you do it right, whatever's left is that that perfect little piece.
Yeah, I think I got too complex. I wasn't chiseling away. I was adding.
Sure.
I was like adding glomps of clay like left and right.
Yeah.
And just kind of became like this blob, you know? It to me, like it sounded like something people would dance to, but it really was not. It was not like it was gibberish. You know what I mean? It was just bleh, you know. It was like a lot of random sounds and tweaks, and you know what I mean. And that's where my bass music went. I mean, I don't want you to go back to my catalog and be like, oh, that's when he fell off. You know what I mean? But but to me, in my ears, I was trying to do the insane person treatment, which is to try and bang my head against the wall to see if I can make a different sound. You know what I mean?
Like trying to force the evolution of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Trying to think of something that, oh, maybe I missed this. Oh, maybe this is the new thing here. Oh, maybe, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, and I think that's super relatable to me. I think anyone who makes music can relate to that because we all go through those periods, you know? Yeah. You don't every single day know exactly what you should be making.
And you shouldn't put out everything that you make.
Yes.
That's another thing is like, I think we've bred a lot of artists into thinking that their quantity is the mode for success. And it's not, you don't need to put out every single freaking song that you think that has an 808 in it. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to feel like people can kind of be attached to their work in a sense that it gives, you allow it time to breathe. Yeah. It's not about, I guess an example is I put out VIISTA. And literally 2 days later, I get a message from some fan. He's like, "This is awesome, man. When's the next project coming?" Literally like 48 hours after it came out. Classic. And I didn't respond, but I took a screenshot and I was like, we created these monsters.
That's 2019 in a nutshell.
We created these monsters, man. Like I am 100% responsible for at least some of my fan base becoming these artistic obese people. You know, like they're
black holes.
Yeah. They're just sucking everything up. They're just holding it in. They're not properly ingesting what's actually being presented to them.
Well, yeah, and I think especially for what you're presenting, like a project like VIISTA, which like we talked about, there's more of a concept, there's, you know, emotional heft to it, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think it takes more to process that kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's, you know, it's a healthy thing. Like that's a compliment in my eyes. And we'll get back to VIISTA, but I just wanted to ask the Pharrell thing. How did that come about? Like
through Diplo. So I didn't actually directly work with Pharrell, but he wrote a song called Aerosol Can, and it was with Major Lazer. And it was, you know, I don't want to say I had a hand in it because I didn't, but I was definitely there.
Yeah.
I was in the room and, you know, I played him some stuff and we had actually made, I think, 2 kind of scratch songs. Unfortunately, that was in a time, I think it was 2013 or 2014.
Yeah.
But I had a laptop and I was generating kind of a pretty cool project. Well, I was gonna see if I could finish that Pharrell song, but I had 2 songs with The Game. I had a song with Marquez Houston. I had a song with Genuine.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I had a song with who else? I don't want to name drop anymore.
No, that's all good. I mean, what's your impressions of, you know, working with artists on that level? Like, if you...
Well, it was ready. Like, I wanted to kind of finish that, and I had it all, and it got lost. I blacked out at a show, and I completely misplaced my bag.
Oh wow!
And I had a project there ready, waiting. Man. I had some like old Anderson .Paak songs.
Wow. It's crazy to think about those random, I mean, that sucks that happened.
It was kind of it was a shift in my career too, because, you know, I bought a laptop the same day, started right back up again. And didn't lose a beat. I had to work that much harder to kind of build back my stock.
Yeah.
Every beat maker, every producer has a stock. You got a shit ton of beats that you sit on that you're ready to play at a moment's notice.
Yeah.
Because you never know who you're going to see. You never know if the next kid down the street's going to be the pop off. You want to help.
Another thing I wanted to say about your production too is I think you get a lot of credit. I mean, for being very prolific, and also I think your sense of like the pocket and the rhythm and all that, I think is sort of a signature thing. But to me, one thing I always liked that I feel like people didn't talk about enough was just the actual sound design of it and the sounds you would choose to use. And briefly, I was curious about your production process and, like the synths you use and how you choose what sounds you make. Like, are you using, pretty traditional stuff, or are you fucking up sounds and breaking
Mostly
things?
fucking up sounds.
Yeah.
I find rhythm in kind of stretching and dragging and warping and doing different things to samples. One thing that's pretty interesting is I never really use the same samples twice. Like if I really know a snare or something that I really like to use, I'll go back to it for sure. But I try to start as many new beats just by typing in a random hot keyword into the search bar and taking some samples out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a little game if you guys want to ever do it. It's just tell someone in the room, say a word, and you can type any word. If your sample bank is big enough, like motherfuckers use like keywords for everything. Like, you write China and you get symbols, you get Chinese sounds, you get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and that's such a great way to think about it, because I think if you place just a few constraints like that, like random constraints on what you're doing, that can spark creativity so much.
Yeah, I try not to really use presets too much, like on Serum or Massive or anything.
Yeah.
I try to learn how to use individual oscillation and FM synthesis, try to kind of...
Well, you just released a splice pack too, right?
Yeah.
Like putting some samples out there.
Yeah, so that was actually the first time. That thing...
I was going to say, that's the first time you've done that, right?
Yeah, first time I ever even tried to catalog any sort of sound that I made. It was a pain in the ass. It took... Damn, John, when was that? Like a year and a half ago? We started the splice pack, like 2 years ago.
Wow.
And like we went back and forth. They weren't happy for a while because I wasn't presenting them. They were probably like in the office, like, does this guy ever do this shit? Like, they were all cut hella weird and like.
Well, yeah, and they have I mean, I did a splice pack too. There's requirements. You got to submit it in a certain way.
Yes. And I like to stretch time. I like to kind of nudge things.
Right.
So when I was bouncing a lot of this shit, it was all nudged weird.
It's funny to think about like deconstructing your music way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It was an exercise that I actually ended up enjoying a lot. I enjoyed kind of isolating parts of songs that I really enjoyed. I like a lot of my beats, but I don't finish a lot of my beats. You know what I mean? It's always a lot of things that I do kind of sit in loop state or just kind of sit in like a weird half done kind of like 1632 bar kind of phrase.
Is it that kind of thing where sort of once you get the core of the idea out, it is what it is, and either it's, going to turn into a song or you just move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Or move on or forget about it. I just built a studio and I enjoy doing kind of drug fueled lightning rounds where we would kind of rotate who's in the chair. So every 10 minutes, someone will make a beat or whatever. Yeah. And then after 10 minutes, we'll like take a hit of weed or something and we'll rotate.
Okay.
The next guy will make a new project. 10 beats or 10. And then
10 minutes, yeah.
And we'll kind of, after an hour and a half, then we'll listen to everything. And we'll kind of have a good time, kind of trying to figure out certain things. It's fun sketching. Right. Sketching is a lot of fun. Right. I like sketching beats because you can't get to that really like convoluted anal, like, oh wait, the filter's not quite open there, and you got to draw all the lines and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just kind of throwing paint and seeing what sticks. And
I think that's a great exercise, even if you're just solo, you know, give yourself 10, 15 minutes
I do it myself
and
too.
cut it off. Like, yeah. I think that's great. This is something I wanted to talk about. This is going to sound super weird, but I want to talk about crying for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were saying that, you know, these are songs that you cried while writing sometimes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Randomly, I saw like you had put up a tweet somewhat recently about how it's good to cry sometimes.
Oh, yeah,
and,
definitely.
And this is just very random, but it's something I had been thinking about because earlier this week, I was in LA and I went to see a concert. James Blake was doing these like solo piano shows.
I didn't know.
It was, I didn't even know. I went
Was it like acoustic piano?
Yeah, just like him in front of a grand piano.
Wow.
And that's
I wish I could have seen that.
Dude, and I mean, I was like bawling at parts. And I don't cry a lot, but like, I'm one of those people.
I don't cry a lot either.
But I don't, do you feel me on this? I wish I cried more. Like, it feels so good when I do.
It does.
And I had this weird moment. I don't know why I'm telling this story, but I had this weird moment at this James Blake thing.
I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah, that's fair. And he was playing, and I was feeling emotional, and I closed my eyes and almost like forced myself to cry.
Wow.
Do you know? I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But it was this
Makes
weird,
a lot
like
of
almost like transcendental moment.
Yeah.
Where I felt super connected through what he was doing. And I guess I'm curious for you, you know, writing music in that kind of mindset, like how do you get yourself to an emotional place, that emotional, when you're writing a song?
Well, I mean, I don't go in the studio like, I'm gonna cry today, I can't wait to cry.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's not really what I'm doing. I think my friends would be concerned about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like, I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna go cry real quick. You know, like
yeah. No, that's not what I meant. But just
no, I know. I'm just making jokes. But
Yeah.
I think at least for me, having to deal with things on a human level, expressed in music, is kind of the source of the crying. It's not really like, oh, this song was so sad. Like he's saying about his dog, and dog got hit by a car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's more the visceral and it's energy. That's what it is. It's energy. It's intent. You can hear the intent in what someone is doing artistically, expressed without them actually telling you. And the beauty in that is where the crying happens. You know, I think I don't achieve that just because, you know, I've said what I wanted to say. It's the beauty of, it's the simplicity of the message conveyed in a nonverbal manner. And the connection is there, and you don't know why. You can't put it into words. It's like you can't.
It's like connecting with something deeper, right?
Yeah, it's like a triangle. Like you get the art and you're the listener, but what's happening in the middle exists neither in your state or the art's paper. You know what I mean? It's like a triangular kind of triangulation.
It's like another layer of reality or something like that.
It is. It exists in an instant. It's not concrete. Because you're not crying forever. You're not going to cry the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. It's momentary.
When you were pushing, I think it's like an old exercise in Japanese theater where you kind of like, you breathe heavier and you kind of like, you kind of like push the crying out.
Right.
Just from the depths of your stomach. And you're like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want to do it right now.
No, I know what you're talking about, though.
You know, but it's like this, you know, I think a lot of societies, like old secret societies, did it where they were not secret, but like just kind of elevated societies that would just hyperventilate themselves or just yell.
Sure. I mean, if you think about even like super, like there's,
force themselves
extreme
into
like
that
religious organizations where you see people speaking in tongues and, all that kind of stuff. Are you a spiritual person?
I'd like to think I am. I don't ascribe to any religion. Like, I'm not a religious man.
Right.
Like, I'm not into ceremonial things or, like, I don't think that God's mad at us. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, I don't walk around with guilt.
Do you think God is a thing?
I don't think it's a thing more than it is an energy source, kind of a fundamental being of, I don't know. I don't really try and think about it too much because I already have accepted that I can't comprehend. You know what I mean? It's beyond our, it's like thinking about how 4D looks like. Can't do that. Or you can't think about 5D or whatever the dimension is.
Right.
You just have to just accept that shit exists or that shit may not, you know what I mean? I don't know. You just have to kind of relate to it.
Yeah.
In a way.
And I mean, when you were talking about that triangle idea and sort of accessing something that neither side is like creating, that to me, that's why I asked that, because that seemed like a really spiritual kind of way of thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, hey man, like we're one topic away from UFOs and aliens, bro.
Let's go part 2.
Yeah, we're gonna go into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think that it is an important thing to discuss, but I think it's like my spirituality is my own, and I don't like taking ownership of things that I can't control. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna tell you that I am a Buddhist or I am you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there are values in Christianity that I hold dear. I have a huge Christian upbringing, and my mom's Catholic, and they both of them, my parents don't ascribe to a religion per se.
Yeah.
But they are so ingrained in religion itself that it is a part of their being, you know?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting, I mean, you think about religion historically, I mean, almost all religions are founded on principles that almost anyone would agree with, right? Be good to each other, improve yourself, all that kind of thing.
Right. They were just ways to get people into civilized society.
And then it's funny, I mean, at this point, like, I'm very cynical about most organized religion at this point.
Yeah.
And
it's anything human born goes to shit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anything that comes born from humans, there's a death date. You know what I mean? Like, we have to realize that capitalism is not the end of the world. It's going to bring us to our knees. You know what I mean? It's not.
Oh, yeah, but we won't. I mean, it's like, this is silly, but it's like the same way we ruined SoundCloud,
It's not like, silly at all, man.
You take a good thing and enough people get on it and it's going to get fucked up.
That's a way to think about life, is exactly how you did it right there, because there's more parallels in this world than people admit.
Life is a lot like SoundCloud.
It is, bro. It is. You have to figure it out.
Yeah, man. Well, and I think, to bring it all the way back to you, I think that's something you've always been really good at, is following that evolution, not getting stuck in the paradigm, always, moving on, trying the next thing, progressing. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are really stoked on what you do. And I'm glad we're here talking about it. It's been fun.
Me too. I always like talking like this because it helps me just organize my ideas.
Oh, same here, man. Yeah. Well, I'll wrap it up. Well, first of all, is there anything else you want to get out there? Anything else we haven't talked about?
No, looking forward to 2020. There's a lot of new music coming out then. I'm sure everyone else has new music too, but if you want to listen to this.
Yeah, but fuck them. This is your idea.
Yeah. I mean, listen to more Carmack stuff. We got a new project called Project Paradise, that's starting next year. It's kind of a conceptual EDM kind of vibe.
Dope.
Yeah, and we also have Jefferson Park Boys. That's kind of like a project we've been doing too, where I play drums and with 2 other of my friends.
Oh, sick.
Mike Parvizi and Kenny Siegel. Shout out them. We're doing a project with Milo. You know Milo?
I do, yeah.
Well, he goes by like Rap Ferreira now or something. He has a new alias.
Oh, okay.
New name. So I'm really excited with that. I always appreciate what that guy does. And
Is that going to be like an album project?
yeah. I don't know if we're supposed to even announce it, but who cares anymore?
It doesn't matter anymore.
It really doesn't. It's going to come out next year. And of course, more of my own stuff. I hope to see it at a show or a festival or whatever.
100%, man. Well, I'll end it just by asking the same question I ask at the end of each one of these episodes.
Okay.
It's just a simple thing. Just looking for a time in your life, a moment or a memory. And it could be from any time in your life when just in a single moment, music really meant something to you, really had a deep effect on you. And it doesn't have to be like a significant moment. It's kind of just the first thing that pops into your head.
The earliest moment I remember when music kind of clicked, where it was like, was I was 3 years old. And I remember I could barely get myself onto the piano bench to sit and play. So I would always have to reach over the piano to play the keys.
Oh, yeah.
But my parents, they don't really tell this story, but it's kind of like their little, but I reached over and I tried to figure out, I don't remember my mental state. You know, I was 3, I could barely speak, but I remember trying to figure out Mary Had a Little Lamb, but I couldn't see the keys. So I'm listening to the piano and I'm playing the keys.
Right.
So there was a kind of a period where I would just play Mary Had a Little Lamb without looking at the keys.
Damn.
And then I would turn around. I remember I would turn around and I would try to play like backwards.
You were doing the trick play, yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, I couldn't see the keyboard. I could see the bottom of the,
Yeah.
Think of an upright. You can see the keys.
Right.
You can see over the keys.
Yeah. And you didn't know, this is the thing about being that young too, you didn't know the right way to do it, right?
And you know, that's the first thing that musicians learn on a age level is distinguishing lower from higher and hearing a higher tone and hearing lower tones. And knowing where the relationship of notes are, you know.
Right. That's so interesting. You were like the blind drummer, man.
Hey, drawing parallels all day.
All day, baby. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this, man.
Yes. No, I had a pleasure. I had a blast.
Me too, man. All right.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you, man. Peace. All right, that's the show. Shout out to Mr. Carmack. Great to talk to you, man. So great. I had a blast. For everybody out there listening, don't forget, VIISTA, the new album from Mr. Carmack, is out right now, and he's got so much more new music on the way. There's something for everybody. You know he can't be stopped. So hit the link in the description of this episode and go follow Mr. Carmack. My name is Willy Joy. You can always follow me as well, at Willy Joy or at Back to Back Pod on all social media, or you can hit me up directly. backtobackpod@gmail.com is the email address. Welcome to 2020. Happy that we're all here together, living through what is sure to be a weird, fun, exciting year. And that's it for this episode. First one of the year in the can. Take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.